Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang, Bapak Ibu, rekan-rekan semua, Mitra Balai Penerapan Teknologi Konstruksi, Direktur Jenderal Bina Konstruksi Kementerian PUPR. Mohon izin sebelum memasuki materi hari ini tentang Bimplus, kami dari Balai Penerapan Teknologi Konstruksi ingin menyampaikan beberapa hal. Dan sekali lagi mohon izin saya mewakili Bapak Kepala Balai Penerapan Teknologi Konstruksi, Direktur Jenderal Bina Konstruksi Kementerian PUPR. Beliau sedang ada penugasan yang lain, jadi saya akan mewakili beliau menyampaikan materi tentang BIM yang biasa beliau sampaikan juga. Mohon izin juga ini kalau misalkan pesertanya dari kemarin sama gitu ya, udah beberapa kali ngeliat materi ini, ya mudah-mudahan tidak bisa jadi hafal ya gitu ya, jadi makin paham karena ini berulang-ulang kita sampaikan dalam berbagai kesempatan. Selamat datang kepada para peserta semuanya yang sudah hadir, sudah ada 481 saat ini, selamat siang. Tema kali ini sangat menarik karena kalau yang kemarin-kemarin itu kaitannya dengan modeling gitu ya, di ALLPLAN engineering maupun ALLPLAN bridge. Nah kalau kali ini kita tentang Bimplus. Nanti apa itu Bimplus? Ini platform buat kolaborasi, sharing dan sebagainya. Jadi nanti bisa dipelajari ya, ini sesuatu hal yang juga berkaitan dengan BIM. Karena BIM itu juga tidak hanya modeling terus ya, ada hal yang lainnya. Oke, Bapak Ibu, kita langsung masuk aja. Jadi kami dari Balai Penerapan Teknologi Konstruksi itu memang biasa mengadakan kegiatan-kegiatan yang berkaitan dengan pembinaan BIM di Indonesia. Kegiatannya sudah banyak yang dilakukan. Wah ini next-nya kok susah ya. Mungkin saya langsung berbicara aja. Jadi Bapak Ibu semua di dunia itu ada lembaga yang namanya World Economic Forum. Setiap tahunnya mengeluarkan report daftar pemeringkatan dibanding-bandingkan dari seluruh negara di dunia. Ada 144 negara yang dibandingkan. Nah Indonesia ini posisi report terakhir itu menempati peringkat 45 ya, sebelumnya 36. Jadi turun ya peringkatnya. Kemudian untuk itu secara global. Kemudian kalau secara infrastruktur, penilaian secara pilar infrastruktur, kita itu turun dari posisi 51 ke 72. Gitu ya. Ini ada kaitannya dengan penerapan teknologi konstruksi khususnya infrastruktur, di mana kita itu masih belum terlalu masif gitu ya dibandingkan dengan negara-negara lainnya, sehingga memang posisi peringkat Indonesia yang berkaitan dengan penerapan teknologi, kesiapan teknologi, maupun hal-hal yang berkaitan dengan itu kita posisinya masih di bawah. Sorry, kok nggak bisa di next ya.
Pencet enter ya Pak.
Ya ini tadi sudah saya sampaikan ini. Jadi, tapi di satu sisi Indonesia itu merupakan pasar konstruksi terbesar di Asia Tenggara dan nomor 4 di Asia. Gitu ya. Jadi potensi konstruksi Indonesia sangat besar sehingga memang harusnya idealnya didukung dengan penerapan teknologi konstruksi yang memadai, yang mumpuni gitu ya, karena supaya proyek-proyek ini juga semuanya bisa dikerjakan dengan cepat gitu ya, dan juga dengan tidak mengabaikan kualitasnya. Maaf ini next-nya ini kok lama sekali. Nah terus kemudian isu berikutnya adalah di Indonesia itu kita punya lebih dari 140.000 badan usaha, tapi yang sebagian besar lebih dari 80% itu levelnya kecil ya, badan usaha jasa konstruksi itu kecil. Jadi kecil. Nah, kemudian sekitar 14%. Kenapa Pak? Enter.
Enter mungkin bisa.
Itu nggak bisa Pak.
Nggak bisa. Oh ya udah.
Nggak bisa juga Pak. Iya, kayaknya di sini internetnya lagi ini Pak. Oke, saya mau ngomong aja. Ini keluar ya. Jadi sekitar 15%, menengahnya besarnya 1,41%. Nah ini juga menjadi concern tersendiri khususnya bagi kami pemerintah. DJBK ini, Dirjen Bina Konstruksi merupakan pembina konstruksi di Indonesia yang membina tenaga kerja, badan usaha, teknologi konstruksi dan sebagainya. Kita berharap semakin banyak yang besar karena semakin banyak yang besar artinya penerapan teknologinya juga mestinya idealnya juga tinggi ya, advance, karena dia punya modal yang besar, kemudian juga SDM konstruksinya juga mestinya idealnya lebih kompeten gitu ya, lebih advance lagi, high quality. Kemudian isu berikutnya terkait dengan komposisi tenaga kerja konstruksi. Nah, di Indonesia ini kita posisinya seperti ini piramidanya. Untuk tenaga ahli muda, ini malah jumlahnya lebih sedikit daripada ahli madya. Jadi piramidanya tidak ideal. Mestinya ahli mudanya lebih banyak daripada ahli madya, karena kan di dalam struktur proyek itu sendiri aja kan utama, ada satu ahli utama dibantu 2 ahli madya misalnya, satu ahli madya dibantu 2 ahli muda misalnya, seperti itu. Jadi mestinya idealnya ahli mudanya lebih banyak. Dan ini terjadi tren penurunan jumlah ahli muda yang bersertifikat sebesar 3% per tahun ya, sejak tahun 2015. Ini merupakan PR tersendiri khususnya bagi kami dari pemerintah. Idealnya ini kan anak-anak muda ini menjadi generasi penerus ya, karena yang senior-senior bakalan retire, pensiun gitu, jadi harus digantikan sama yang muda. Nah, ini ada kaitannya juga dengan mengapa terjadi penurunan, karena memang akses untuk kegiatan ya yang berkaitan dengan konstruksi, baik itu pemagangan, pelatihan, sertifikasi dan sebagainya, itu masih dirasakan belum terlalu masif gitu ya, khususnya buat generasi muda. Ini juga miris juga karena data itu 30%, setiap tahun itu ada 30.000 orang yang lulus, tapi 55-65%-nya itu mereka tidak bekerja di bidang teknik atau mismatch istilahnya ya. Nah, ini juga mengapa Kementerian PUPR melalui Balai PTK ini, Dirjen Bina Konstruksi, kita hadir untuk memberikan terobosan-terobosan kegiatan-kegiatan yang bisa diakses oleh khususnya masyarakat jasa konstruksi semuanya ya. Umumnya masyarakat jasa konstruksi khususnya buat generasi muda supaya tetap tertarik untuk bisa stay tune bekerja di bidang konstruksi. Yang berikutnya ini isu berkaitan dengan lingkungan strategis pembinaan SDM konstruksi. Jadi Bapak Ibu, intinya zaman now itu kata kunci standar, sertifikasi. Nah, ini dikaitkan dengan era yang sekarang itu adalah berbasis IT. Jadi standar, sertifikasi memanfaatkan teknologi informasi gitu ya. Jadi ini peraturan-peraturan sudah sangat banyak banget tentang berkaitan dengan standar sertifikasi. Mengapa sih harus standar sertifikasi? Ya karena ini adalah satu-satunya jalan supaya semua kerja itu terstruktur gitu ya, dan prosesnya jelas, workflow-nya jelas, kemudian juga dengan menjaga kualitasnya juga tetap terjaga, sehingga kerjanya juga melulu seperti itu gitu ya, sudah ada looping-loopingnya, tapi kualitasnya juga tetap terjaga, karena memang namanya standar kan seperti itu ya, sertifikasi kan kayak gitu. Jadi spiritnya adalah menjaga kualitas mutu. Jadi ya. Nah, kemudian strategi capacity building atau capacity building maksudnya pembinaan kami ya di BPTK khususnya untuk SDM itu berkaitan dengan BIM. Nah, selain BIM itu kita juga punya nih dari BPTK ada Design Learning Bima Konstruksi. Nah, Design Learning Bima Konstruksi ini merupakan pelatihan jarak jauh di mana materi-materinya itu dari yang berbasis SKKNI, Standar Kompetensi Kerja Nasional Indonesia. Kalau misalkan Bapak Ibu sering ini ya ikut kegiatan, Pak Cakra udah sering menyampaikan bahwa kalau LC Bima Konstruksi ini semacam basic gitu ya, level dasar gitu. Kalau misalnya Bapak Ibu ingin mengetahui seberapa jauh Bapak Ibu menguasai bidang konstruksi, nah ini di LC Bima menjadi parameter untuk level basicnya. Ya. Kemudian yang kedua berkaitan dengan BIM. Nah, BIM ini lebih tinggi lagi atau lebih advance gitu ya. Harapannya kalau misalkan Bapak Ibu sudah dengan SKKN itu sudah mahir gitu, ini BIM ini bisa dikembangkan gitu, untuk menambah kapasitas diri. Nah, ini makanya dia lebih ke arah middle advance lah gitu ya. Yang terakhir berkaitan dengan strategi ketiga itu magang konstruksi. Jadi Kementerian PUPR melalui Dirjen Bina Konstruksi juga sudah mengeluarkan surat edaran Menteri PUPR nomor 23/2019 tentang pemagangan. Jadi di sini memberikan kesempatan untuk khususnya untuk mahasiswa fresh graduate gitu ya, baik level D3, D4, S1 untuk bisa bekerja di proyek-proyek konstruksinya PUPR, khususnya yang proyeknya di atas 50 miliar. Di situ sudah dipersyaratkan untuk proyek konstruksi yang di atas 50 miliar itu wajib untuk memagangkan orang. Nah, SK Menteri 23/2019 tadi merupakan peraturan turunannya, petunjuk pelaksanaan, petunjuk teknisnya. Nah, Bapak Ibu, Mitra Balai Penerapan Teknologi, nah mengapa BIM diperlukan? Permasalahan-masalah dan saat ini itu berkaitan dengan database, sehingga ini mempengaruhi ke inefisiensi dan inefektivitas. Database kenapa? Karena yang masih mengandalkan konvensional atau semi digital gitu ya, berbasis paper base, 2D, PDF gitu ya, masih seperti itu. Kemudian untuk komunikasi sesama stakeholder di proyek itu juga masih platformnya beda-beda. Ada yang lewat email, ada yang lewat WhatsApp, ada yang lewat telepon, ada yang lewat Google, Dropbox dan lain sebagainya, sehingga ini berantakan gitu ya, tidak rapi database-nya. Nah, ini berpengaruh besar kepada inefisiensi dan inefektivitas dari perencanaan maupun pelaksanaan proyeknya. Kemudian permasalahan yang akan datang juga selain permasalahan tadi ya, yang memang sebenarnya sampai saat ini juga masih ada. Ini pekerjaannya itu ke depan makin kompleks, makin multi sophisticated ya, makin canggih gitu. Bangunan itu makin meliuk-liuk dan seterusnya gitu, dan tapi disuruh cepat untuk bangunnya gitu ya. Jadi ini juga PR tersendiri. Kemudian visualisasi. Nah, ini bangunan kalau misalkan proyek itu hanya mengandalkan PDF gitu ya, itu susah banget memperhatikan, melihat gambar. Lagi yang masalah penulangan itu kan tumpuk-tumpuk ya, mepet-mepet, susah banget. Kalau misalkan visualisasi ini baik gitu ya, sekarang ini banyak banget platform-platform untuk mempermudah visualisasi ini, itu akan mempermudah siapapun, baik di tim proyeknya maupun orang-orang yang di luar tim proyeknya, baik orang teknik maupun orang non-teknik. Karena kan dia bisa divisualisasikan baik berupa gambar maupun dengan video gitu ya. Bahkan bisa lihat dengan augmented reality, virtual reality. Nah, ini tentunya akan berpengaruh juga kepada penghematan gitu ya. Kalau menurut banyak artikel-artikel itu, BIM ini dengan metode BIM ini bisa mengefisiensikan sampai sekian puluh persen gitu ya, bahkan sampai sangat besar sekali gitu efisiensinya dengan menggunakan metode BIM ini. Ya, ini kan juga concernnya semua orang ya, terutama penyedia jasa gitu, supaya gimana caranya untung sebesar-besarnya gitu kan, tapi dengan tidak mengabaikan mutu dari proyeknya. Berikutnya definisi BIM ini tadi ya berkaitan dengan yang slide yang sebelumnya ya, tadi BIM ini berkaitan dengan database karena semuanya digital. BIM ini adalah visualisasi ya, karena semuanya bisa karena digital bisa dibuat pemodelannya, bisa dalam bentuk video dan sebagainya. BIM ini adalah integrasi, koordinasi, kolaborasi. Ya, ini spiritnya karena sekali lagi karena dia digital, jadi orang itu komunikasinya juga lebih, karena semuanya dilakukan dengan platform digital. Terakhir, ini BIM ini adalah metode bukan software ya pasti ya. BIM ini merupakan workflow atau metode kerja. Apa bedanya sih Pak dengan metode-metode kerja sebelumnya atau yang saat ini ada? Sebenarnya sama saja, hanya bedanya metode kerja yang saat ini berjalan itu semuanya dilakukan dengan secara digital ya, digitally. Gitu ya. Jadi sehingga data digitalnya atau digital footprint-nya itu, jejak digitalnya itu terlacak semuanya, karena platform-platformnya ini memungkinkan untuk rapi gitu, untuk pengarsipannya secara digital rapi. Nah, apakah BIM itu software? Ya, BIM memang bukan software, tapi at the end untuk penerapan BIM ini membutuhkan software-software, gitu ya, baik software-software pemodelan, software-software untuk kolaborasinya dan sebagainya. Jadi banyak software-software untuk mendukung ini. Makanya mungkin tidak pernah dengar juga BIM itu bisa diartikan sebagai build before construct atau build digitally before construct physically. Jadi dibangun dulu secara digital seperti kenyataan, seperti kalau Bapak Ibu atau teman-teman di sini suka main games yang berkaitan dengan itu ya, gambar gedung-gedung itu kayak gitu. Jadi seolah-olah kita lagi jalan atau main tembak-tembakan itu kan kayak beneran gitu di dalam kota, gedung-gedungnya, tingginya dan seterusnya kayak gitu. Sebenarnya BIM itu mempermudah kayak benerannya gitu secara digital, baru dia dibangun secara fisikal. Nah, implementasi BIM ini dalam konstruksi dikenal ada dari mulai 3D sampai 7D. 3D-nya ini berkaitan dengan modelingnya, structural detailing dan seterusnya gitu ya. Jadi memang ya pemodelan bangunannya secara utuh gitu ya. Kemudian untuk 4D-nya ini apa? 4D ini merupakan bentuk scheduling berkaitan dengan waktu gitu ya. Setelah dibikin pemodelan 3D-nya, kemudian dibuat schedulingnya gitu berkaitan dengan waktu. Kan metode itu nanti akan berpengaruh ya terhadap scheduling mob demo mob demo material, peralatan, SDM-nya gitu kan, itu bisa harus di ini juga gitu ya, harus disusun juga. Kemudian yang 5D-nya apa? 5D-nya ini berkaitan dengan biaya atau cost. Nah, jadi setelah dengan metode-metode tertentu, schedulingnya udah ada, kan itu nanti juga akan muncul biaya-biaya seperti apa. Berapa kebutuhan untuk materialnya, berapa untuk peralatannya, berapa untuk SDM-nya gitu ya. Jadi semua bisa dihitung. Dan integrated gitu ya. Jadi tetap dari berbasis yang dari 3D-nya tadi dan 4D-nya. Yang 6D-nya ini apa? 6D-nya ini berkaitan dengan analisis energi. Misalkan bangunan ada istilahnya green building. Nah, itu kan sekarang juga dituntut gimana caranya kita ini mengurangi global warming gitu ya, mengurangi emisi karbon supaya bumi nggak semakin panas. Nah, ini gedung ini merupakan, bangunan gedung merupakan salah satu penyumbang emisi karbon juga yang cukup signifikan di dunia. Sehingga memang kalau misalkan perencanaannya itu juga memikirkan bagaimana supaya penggunaan lampu, misalkan penggunaan AC, penggunaan listrik, itu energi itu lebih hemat, itu tentunya lebih baik. Gitu ya. Yang terakhir ini berkaitan dengan 7D, yaitu untuk operation and maintenance, untuk facility management, dan tentunya juga untuk arsip digitalnya. Nah, 3D sampai 7D-nya ini tentunya direncanakan atau dibuat semuanya di fase awal gitu ya. Idealnya gitu, idealnya. Tapi kalau di Indonesia sepertinya belum ada ya 3D sampai 7D yang total gitu ya. Mungkin 3D, 4D ya, 3D, 4D, 5D ya. Ya, tapi kayak langsung semua mau-maunya gitu, itu mungkin belum ada. Tapi ini goal ke depan, mestinya idealnya 3D sampai 7D-nya ini bisa diterapkan. Karena yang paling terpenting adalah kalau misalkan ada data digitalnya kan untuk arsip ya. Kalau misalkan mau melakukan operasional, pemeliharaan, apalagi pembongkaran gitu, bisa lebih mudah. Nah, Bapak Ibu semua, ini BIM ini juga memang sesuai dengan apa yang Bapak Menteri PUPR perintahkan gitu ya, untuk melakukan terobosan-terobosan untuk mempercepat pembangunan infrastruktur. Salah satunya penerapan hasil riset dan teknologi. Kemudian ini adalah roadmap implementasi BIM. Jadi kita sudah ada target-targetnya gitu ya. Mungkin ada yang sudah tercapai, ada yang mungkin masih on progress, ada yang masih meleset gitu ya. Ya, tapi mudah-mudahan nanti intinya ke depan ini semua masih banyak sampai saat ini gitu, dan ke depan ini masih concern banyak hal yang dilakukan untuk BIM ini. Nah, salah satu yang terpenting adalah Peraturan Menteri PUPR ini sudah dikeluarkan, Peraturan Menteri PUPR nomor 22 tahun 2018, bahwa penggunaan metode BIM itu wajib dilakukan untuk bangunan gedung negara, bangunan gedung pemerintah, bangunan gedung yang dibangun dengan dana APBN, APBD. Bentuknya kompleks, tidak sederhana, dengan kriteria di atas 2.000 meter persegi dan lebih dari 2 lantai. Keluarannya apa? Keluaran dari perencananya atau perencanaannya itu, memang ini diwajibkannya untuk perencanaannya ya, untuk penyedia jasa perencana, untuk konsultan perencana sebenarnya. Ada 6 itu yang diwajibkan keluarannya. Yang pertama gambar arsitektur, gambar struktur, gambar MIP, gambar landscape, RAB, kemudian BOQ-nya. Nah, BOQ dan RAB, biayanya. Jadi ada 6. Nah, kolaborasi tentu dilakukan untuk bagaimana supaya BIM ini lebih masif lagi. Penerapannya di Indonesia sudah banyak dilakukan, baik kami dari pemerintah, masyarakat, gitu ya, kemudian badan usaha, sudah banyak sekali yang dilakukan. Yang ikut kegiatan seperti ini bisa menjadi duta di lingkungan masing-masing, gimana caranya kita mengupgrade ini pengetahuan kita, skill kita tentang BIM, kita di, ya Bapak Ibu mau di mana, mau kontraktor ya bisa, di konsultan bisa diterapkan, di masyarakat bisa, mau kalau jadi konsultan freelance bisa kalau jago BIM gitu ya, itu lumayan. Jadi banyak hal yang bisa dilakukan dengan biaya. Untuk kami sendiri, untuk dorong supaya BIM ini menjadi materi ajar bidang konstruksi di perguruan tinggi, kita berkirim surat tahun lalu ya melalui Dirjen BIM Konstruksi ke Dirjen bawah, mendorong supaya BIM menjadi mata kuliah pilihan minimal 2 SKS. BIM Success Story Indonesia sudah banyak sekali proyek-proyek di Indonesia yang menggunakan metode BIM, dan ini beberapa di antaranya yang kita rangkum gitu ya. Itu macam-macam, ada bangunan gedung, ada bendungan, ada dermaga, jalan jembatan, dan seterusnya. Sudah banyak sekali. Kemudian ini berkaitan dengan pembinaan SDM BIM ya, kami dari BPTK bekerja sama dengan perguruan tinggi sudah banyak melakukan TOT dan BIMTEK di seluruh Indonesia. Kemudian ke depan kita sudah membangun yang namanya laboratorium BIM PUPR, tapi memang belum berjalan sampai saat ini karena masih pandemi. Itu targetnya 1.000 orang per tahun kita latih secara gratis di Jakarta. Ini lab BIM-nya ada di Jakarta, ada di dekat Ancol sana. Tapi selain itu gimana Pak kalau yang tinggal nggak di Jakarta? Ya bisa, ya kalau mau datang silakan. Tapi kalau misalkan nggak juga, kita juga sampai saat ini membangun kemitraan gitu ya dengan berbagai macam stakeholder. Mereka akan menjadi satelit-satelit BIM kita, baik itu dengan perguruan tinggi. Jadi lab BIM-nya perguruan tinggi itu menjadi tempat pelatihan BIM juga, kerjasama dengan kami. Kemudian juga misalnya dengan badan usaha juga ada, kita juga sudah diajak ya sama adik karya, misalnya di Adi Learning Center itu nanti belajar bareng di situ, misalnya dengan juga Wika Santrian yang Wijaya Karya juga seperti itu. Jadi kita sudah sangat-sangat masif sekali dari pemerintah ini, udah menggurita ya kemana-mana lah ini untuk BIM ini kolaborasi kerjasamanya. Kemudian untuk perguruan tinggi tadi sudah, dengan ASN PUPR kita juga di Kementerian PUPR sendiri sudah, untuk pembinaan internalnya juga ada dari BPSDM. Ke SMK juga kita ada gitu ya, kita sudah mulai kerja kolaborasi dengan Ditjen Vokasi gitu, khususnya Direktorat SMK dari Kemdikbud. Jadi nanti ke depan ada rencana BIM menjadi bagian dari kurikulum anak-anak SMK, sehingga nanti mereka bekerja sama dengan kami untuk melatih guru-guru SMK, seperti guru-guru SMK tadi bisa mengajar lagi ke mahasiswanya. Nah ini terakhir mengenai agenda Sibima, ini memang mohon maaf belum diupdate. Untuk update-nya silakan kunjungi Instagram kami di @sibimkonstruksi. Ya, sekali lagi Instagram @sibimkonstruksi, silakan di-follow gitu. Itu berita kegiatan-kegiatan kita di sana kita sampaikan. Kemudian Facebook ya, Facebook Sibima Konstruksi, Twitter @sibima_konstruksi. Kemudian juga kita ada YouTube channel. Itu kalau webinar-webinar yang direkam, kita beberapa sudah upload di sana. Di antaranya webinar implementasi BIM di proyek konstruksi. Itu sudah ada dengan Berantas Abipraya, dengan Adikarya, PT PP Persero, kemudian Waskita Karya dan Wijaya Karya. Ini silakan dilihat kalau misalnya Bapak Ibu penasaran gimana sih metode BIM ini diterapkan di proyek konstruksi. Nah, Bapak Ibu semua, kegiatan kami ini gratis ya, gratis, tidak berbayar, dan mendapatkan e-sertifikat. Tapi karena memang kegiatannya sangat banyak sekali, kami mohon harap maklum gitu, nanti sertifikatnya mungkin tidak cepat-cepat banget, tapi kami berupaya tidak sampai lebih dari sebulan gitu bisa didistribusikan. Didistribusikannya seperti apa? Kita mendistribusikan e-sertifikatnya melalui info tautan ya. Kita akan menginformasikan tautan atau linknya, link Google Drive-nya melalui Instagram @sibima konstruksi dan Facebook Sibima Konstruksi, melalui dua itu, Instagram Sibima Konstruksi dan Facebook Sibima Konstruksi. Nanti silakan dipantau saja gitu ya, nanti kita akan umumkan sertifikat mana, kegiatan mana saya sudah selesai dan bisa diakses atau bisa di-download oleh Bapak Ibu semua. Baik, itu saja bisa saya sampaikan. Terima kasih banyak. Selamat mengikuti webinar seri ketiga bersama ALLPLAN tentang Bimplus. Semoga bermanfaat. Dan nanti di akhir kegiatan webinar ini, menjelang akhir, kami akan share link feedback untuk Bapak Ibu isi. Di situ linknya sekalian untuk absen, jadi tidak ada link absen awal-awal webinar, tapi kita kumpulin full semua di akhir ya. Link feedback itu jadi satu sebagai absensi dan juga untuk Bapak Ibu mendapatkan e-sertifikat. Nah, supaya nanti e-sertifikat Bapak Ibu namanya rapi, mohon nanti untuk mengisi link itu jangan asal-asalan, Misalkan hurufnya besar semua atau huruf depan dari nama Bapak Ibu itu besar, nama depan nama belakang, kemudian silakan ditambahkan gelar akademik gitu ya. Pokoknya yang rapih karena nanti nama yang tercetak di sertifikat itu adalah nama yang Bapak Ibu tulis di link feedback itu. Gitu ya. Jadi nanti kami share, silakan diisi nanti ya. Oke, selamat mengikuti webinar. Terima kasih Pak Asis. Saya kembali pada Pak Asis. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Pak Reza atas pembukaannya. Mr. Ramon, I think your turn to do the presenting something.
Okay, good afternoon for still morning here in the western part of Europe. Thank you for joining again after 2 days of already webinars we have done. We started on Monday actually with ALLPLAN engineering, and it was my colleague Stefan Binnemans who showed great capabilities ALLPLAN engineering offers to you if it's for freeform modeling and reinforce it. And then yesterday it was all about ALLPLAN Bridge, the solution we have brought to the market for bridge engineers covering the whole workflow needed for bridge building. And today, that's also an interesting topic. It will be all about Bimplus. And Bimplus, that's the data hub that sits actually in the middle of our solution portfolio, and that connects our solutions, so open architecture, engineering, and bridge, with the other Nemetschek brands. But not only the other Nemetschek brands we have, also third-party software. So having that data hub in between, that collaboration platform, that's a topic on itself. And for that, we brought today Ralph Puringer as a presenter, who is in our company responsible for delivering all information on collaboration topics. And yeah, let me hand over to Ralph, which can give a very good overview and demonstration on Bimplus. So Ralph, I want to transfer now to you.
Let's see, make sure you're seeing my screen. You can see my screen correctly. You can all hear me okay?
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Okay.
Now it's lost it again. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, good afternoon to you all. As Ramon has already said, it's early morning here in Western Europe, and it's a grey and misty morning in the UK. My name's Ralph Pullinger. I'm the Sales Enablement Manager for Collaboration and Open Engineering. Today I'm going to take you through a presentation and some examples of project collaboration using an open BIM solution which is embedded into the whole of the Nemetschek Corporation. Today, we are going to briefly look at some of the challenges in the construction industry, what's needed, how we are providing a solution for this in the form of Bimplus, and then finally we're going to close down with a look at some case studies, and then plenty of time at the end for your questions and answers. As usual, on the previous 2 days, there is a question pane in your GoToWebinar panel. If you would like to fill in questions as you think of them, and then we can circle back at the end and catch up with your questions and hopefully give you some answers. So the challenges in the construction industry today are many. Some of which I believe you have already just got a flavor of, but the worldwide construction market is estimated at some extortionate amount of money. But still, we see a fifth of this attributable to waste, poor budgets, and costly time overruns. So if we can save some of that 20%, imagine what else we can do with that money. And much of this waste is down to how projects are designed, managed, and built. So communication, planning, collaboration, all key words in this 20% of waste. We know from surveys that we've had done that much of this waste is down to ineffective communication. As you can see here, incomplete data and design changes were attributable for greater effects with regards to errors and waste inside of projects. We also hear that project complexity is increasing, and some people get fixated on what a project actually looks like. So are we saying that the ancients who built Stonehenge and the pyramids, those projects were no less complex or demanding than the new museum in Dubai? So the answer to that is no. At the time, they were equally as complex, but the collaboration requirements around modern projects have increased dramatically over the years. So how we deliver and collaborate means so much more now. We also know that there are a lack of skilled workers in the world, and I believe some figures on the previous slides bear this out as well. In the last recession, millions left, but only half came back. There's not enough skilled people to go around, so we're having to do more buildings, more roads with the same or even less people than we have done before. Consequently, we are having to be more inventive, and we're going to have to come up with new ways of doing things. But still, we see that in construction, productivity has actually declined. And this is all before the effects of the current pandemic that we are in are assessed. We know projects are still going to be late, and they will still cost more, and they will still generate waste unless we do something about this. Now, yesterday, Stefan gave us a great example of a bridge structure that actually came in on budget and under time. Now, there are examples of this sort of quality of build around the world for various construction sectors, but they all have one thing in common, and that is collaboration. Overspend is a major factor in projects. But what is that down to? You've got to look at the underlying problems associated with overspend. It's poor information, poor coordination, poor construction, and poor productivity. And all of this is borne out when you look at the average cost overruns in infrastructure projects. Bridges, 11% over. Roads, 27%. And these are average cost overruns around the world, okay? So buildings, 39. So in many ways, infrastructure is doing better than building, which is great, until you come down to tunnels, which are possibly some of the most complex projects in the world anyway, but they are looking at average cost overruns of over 149%. We see that because we are being put under pressure to deliver projects faster, more efficiently, that safety is being forgotten about. So we should still focus on the human aspect of construction. And we have tools that enable us to do that, because we have tools that can allow us to review information at the right moment for the right purpose. We can manage risk more effectively if we have that information and it's coordinated. And if we assess how things might be constructed ahead of it actually being constructed, i.e. built digitally rather than built actually, as you've just heard, it all makes perfect sense. One of the great things about being in this industry is when you are at the cutting edge, you get some great IT and some great facilities, okay? But we still see that the building industry is lagging behind in both digital maturity and championing where they are at, okay? So we are attributed with being what we call laggards. So people who don't know how to use technology, people who don't sing their praises often enough. And where we want to be is much higher up. We want to be in this corner of the graph. We know that we have 5G being rolled out across multiple countries, but still people are talking about technology adoption holding our industry back. So my question to all of you is, how many of you use email? How many of you have a smartphone? Most of you will have some form of this technology. So there should be no excuses for technology adoption for anyone in the industry. So the industry has picked up on all of these issues and problems, and they've reacted with something called BIM. Now, my guess is that you wouldn't be on this webinar unless you knew at least something about building information modeling. So this is just to recap essentially what you've just seen and what you already know, so that we put you in a place ready for what we're going to show you next. So BIM is all about a way of working, a collaborative way of working, but it's underpinned by digital technology. It is not about software. So it is not about who provides the software. It is about who uses the software and how they use the software. And it's important to note that this is not just at the design phase. It is all the way through design, construction, and the management, and even the demolition of a project, okay? It produces masses of digital data, geometrical data, relationship data, and of course, what we are all looking for, quantification of data as well, volumes, areas, etc. We know all about the benefits of BIM because it improves communication and collaboration between the project team, or it is supposed to improve communication and collaboration. BIM is supposed to be more accurate, but those of us that were using computer-aided design in 2D know already that accuracy shouldn't really be an issue. But the more accurate design that we can do, and certainly the earlier we do that accuracy, means that we have greater flexibility further on in the project. We know still that clash detection or proximity detection is a big headline, and it is supposed to alleviate or reduce the amount of rework. It is supposed to reduce the amount of waste and decrease the carbon footprint of our construction. And BIM is supposed to increase project delivery times. And we've already seen that. If it's done right, then we know it works. But unfortunately, we still see some problems. If it's done right, we can see savings of around 10% in contract value. We can see savings in about 7 to 10% in project time. Because it's more accurate, we see less time taken to create cost estimates, and we are actually getting better reductions on unbudgeted change. In infrastructure projects, we already know that digital processes improve project delivery by reducing errors, giving us a better understanding of the project, and allowing us to improve and optimize the design. Many, over two-thirds or almost two-thirds, see a positive return on investment in this technology, and a quarter of those people believe that that return on investment is greater than 25%. So what this basically says is, if you invest in not only your people, processes, and digital solutions, you will see the benefits, okay? But it is not plain sailing, because you still have complexities that you still need to manage. You've got new processes, you've got a new culture, you've got new technology. And some of this is borne out because we know through surveys again where the amount of people that sits inside of all of these circles. But if we manage information properly, if we train our staff, we get better results. This sweet spot in the middle of these three circles accounts for 11% of the people doing BIM in the world today. So there are 90 or 89% of people around this sweet spot which are still not embracing the change. We must be able to connect the dots, and that's what we can do with Bimplus. So Bimplus is an open and connected project collaboration platform. I know that's a mouthful, but it does exactly what it says on the tin. It connects BIM projects with their users. Behind Bimplus is a very sophisticated but open database. This allows us to merge, coordinate, and analyze models and documents in real time. It is on the cloud, so you can get at this solution anytime, anywhere, and on any device that supports a browser. So there are no special applications. It's just based on your favorite browser, on your favorite device. That could be a laptop, a PC, an iPad, a phone, anything that supports a browser and has a connection to the internet. Bimplus is targeted towards the construction industry. Whole project teams with architects, engineers, fabricators, project managers, and clients. It's a full life cycle solution. And one of the particular advantages of this application Bimplus is its openness. So the whole ethos and architecture of Nemetschek, of ALLPLAN, of all of the brands are enshrined within ALLPLAN Bimplus. And we will see later how this allows us to go out and expand the connectivity of BIM through over and above our own solutions. So this is a diagram that you are all familiar with, and I thought it would be good to just to put this up to emphasize where we sit again as Bimplus and why we describe it as the hub for all information flow. Or you could think of it as the glue that binds our open BIM philosophy together, our open and connected BIM. Now, we have a targeted approach to this. We have 5 main buckets: project management, information management, change management, coordination, collaboration. And then we also have a set of extended functionalities which span all of these 5 pillars that we are aiming to provide an answer to for the issues that we've raised already. So we must be able to manage projects effectively if we want to see productivity gains and if we want to drive down costs. Now I'm going to show you what Bimplus looks like and how we can set up and manage a project in Bimplus to realize these gains. So I mentioned that Bimplus is cloud-based. I'm using Google Chrome here as my medium. Bimplus is project-based. It is also team-based. So you have a team of members that you can invite to many projects. Your team members will be assigned different levels of access. So I own my own Bimplus team, which means that I can invite and assign members to my team for various purposes. I can have my team members as a member or an administrator. If I'm feeling particularly nasty, I can uninvite them from my team. It's a bit like Facebook, I guess, being unfriended, but I don't do that very often. When I invite a new member, they are then available for me to add them to my projects. So first of all, I have to create a project. So creating a project is very easy. I just have to give it a name, and then I can start to fill in some characteristics of that particular project, all the way down to when that project begins and when it is expected to end, and even giving it a friendly icon or picture so that I can recognize it very quickly in my huge list of projects that I'm doing. So here we have a lovely yellow and blue PUPR picture. Now, as team owner, I am automatically assigned a member of the project because someone has to start somewhere. So we also need to create groups of individuals because groups help to define our rights and roles within the project. Rights and roles define who does what with what information when. Again, because I'm the team owner, I am automatically a member of those groups. If I want to invite other members to these groups, it is just a simple matter of essentially selecting them from the list of team users, team contributors that you already have set up. Here, I'm inviting Stefan into the group civil and Ramon into the group structural. Slightly about face with this, because you've already seen Stefan present some of this information already. What I'm showing you now is how we allowed Ramon and Stefan to present some of the information that you've already seen over the previous 2 days. So as well as users and groups, we also have a document repository within Bimplus, which again can be used on a folder-based system, but all of this is online, available at any time, so it can be your single source of truth. Moving and organizing folders is as simple as dragging and dropping the name in a different hierarchy. All what you see here with regards to adding models or adding documents can be covered within a complete revisioning process. Everything that you embed or create in Bimplus is tracked. All versions, all revisions for all time, unless, of course, you decide to delete the project. Here, I'm just uploading the axes and the terrain that Stefan showed in his and used in his bridge examples yesterday. And I'm also adding in, for good measure, the bridge that has already been designed. Now, I'm saying that this is all slightly about face. It's in a slight reverse order to what we've already seen, but this hopefully is going to pull things together so that you can see where the information came from and how it actually got there in the first place. So this is a managed system. And by managed, I mean that we have to decide what we do with the information, who gets it at the right time. And to do that, we have the ability to issue models. So when we have a model that is in Bimplus, it is in our own individual, what we would call work in progress zones. But from there, we need to issue it for greater use. In its basic form, which is the viewer, which you see here, we can navigate around the model. We can take views of the model. We can isolate and hide areas or objects of the model, and we can hide and isolate being sort of opposite functionality to each other, as we saw. And then we can take clipping planes so that we can do approximate sections, which can be aligned to the X, Y, or Z planes, and also defined by a cutting line. I can think of an extended functionality with this particular function, whereby we could possibly take perpendicular cuts along an axis. So that is something that has just come to mind. Within the same environment, we can also take measurements. So different measurements with regards to perpendicular or free between 2 points, okay? So hopefully that was 6 meters across the bottom of the bridge deck. The organization of the model we can see in hierarchy as well, so that allows us to distinguish very, very quickly major components of the model. We can isolate and turn off various things and end up with nothing or everything very, very quickly. So information, we know, because we've seen it already, grows massively when we talk about BIM. We see projects not of megabytes, but of gigabytes. And obviously, the more information you produce, the more storage you will require. And we see this happening in a much, much shorter time frame. So you've got to be able to manage this information. You've got to know where to go to get the correct version, or to visualize, or to comment, or to collaborate, coordinate, etc., etc. So Bimplus allows you to do this because, again, we have all of this information embedded into the system. So what we can do here is, once we've assigned and published our models, that will allow us to, let me just make sure that, yeah, I'm just catching up, just watching two screens. So if I have, for instance, my models in Bimplus that I want to work with, say, for instance, visualize, and I'm checking visually to make sure that I'm happy with the alignment over the terrain. I know that this is the bridge that Stefan has already modeled for us, but it's just emphasizing that the axes that I'm interested in is most definitely current. Okay, so I'm going to select the axes, and I'm going to basically share this revision of the axes so that Stefan can pick it up and work with it in the next section. This workflow is embedded into an ISO standard, ISO 19650, and this is what we are working towards. Okay, so to let Stefan know that I have a task for him to do, I can also create a task in Bimplus that allows me to select the object and essentially communicate with that object to Stefan and ask him tell him what I want him to do. And for that, that's going to be a case of giving it a title and telling Stefan that the axis has been shared and is now ready for him to use in his bridge design. Okay. Now, this axis can come from many sources as well. This is a land XML axis, which means that this alignment can come from different sources, such as Open Roads, iModel, and Civil 3D, amongst many other formats. Okay, so we are publishing a land XML piece of information into Bimplus, and we are sharing it, and we are asking or telling Stefan to pick up the axes and work with it. And because I know Stefan's a really good chap, this is what Stefan is going to do next. And here on our dashboard, we see the tasks that have been assigned and created by me, and also who is going to be responsible. We also see see on the dashboard our current storage, which is really good, so that we know that how much information we are generating within our project. Now, this is Stefan's screen. Stefan, from within ALLPLAN Bridge, is logging into Bimplus. He is now importing the new axes into ALLPLAN Bridge, and here it is. So you can see that compared with the original axes, it is different. So another benefit here with ALLPLAN Bridge is that we can swap axes just by repointing the bridge to the correct one or the one that we want to use, and the bridge regenerates based on that new axis. And all we have to do then is update the model in Bimplus, which we've already done here, to actually show where we're at with regards to that axis, that alignment, and the new bridge design. Okay. And what we really should do is to make sure that task has been corrected and solved, so that we can see in our dashboard that that particular task has again been closed out. So in a nutshell, Bimplus allows you to take control of your tasks, allows you to assign work to different people, share information, and carry on with the project design, coordination, and collaboration. So again, in Bimplus, we are able to look at any model within the modeling within the project environment. So this is what you might call aggregation of models. And in this particular project, we've loaded up many different examples in different coordinate systems. Now, you wouldn't normally do this because you would expect the one project to be on one coordinate system. But obviously, we needed environment to show you exactly how this would work. So here I'm loading up two models which are on the same coordinate system, which allows us to look at two models at the same time from different people. So one is going to be from our bridge designer, and one is going to be from our reinforcement detailer. If we turn off and control the visibility of what we are able to see, either by using components or by selecting them on the screen, we can actually see what we need to visualize in conjunction with each other. So the first part of any coordination exercise has got to be a visual check to make sure that my piles, for instance, are totally within my pile cap, that my reinforcement totally sits within the concrete for the pier. Okay, obvious checks are the first thing to do. It's a bit like when your computer goes off, the first thing that you should check is the fuse on the plug. Okay, if it looks right, it stands a fair chance that it's well on the way to being right. Very simple exercise, but you need the ability to aggregate models within the one environment to do this. We've seen that changes account for a lot of the problems on site. With change comes more risk and a greater increase in errors. So we need to be able to manage those change to reduce the problems associated with change. As with everything, managing change is almost how we approach projects at the beginning. So we're looking at a much simpler example here of a pile cap, and typically this is one that I have got to start playing. So if I look at this very simple pile cap in BIM Explorer, our viewer, you can see what it is actually made of. Okay, it's made up of piles, concrete, reinforcement, a starter bar or starter bars, and some ductwork that some person has decided to place on site without any regard for foundations. Okay, so my first visual check is I've definitely got a problem here. Now the question is not so much as who put it there as to what can we do next to alleviate the problem. So let's just have a little look at how the revisions got built up. Okay, so this particular pile cap has got several revisions in it, and I know this because I can see what appears to be a clock next to my model name in my left-hand panel. If I want to compare the revisions, I can compare what I have now with any revision of this model that was organized, that's been uploaded before. And with that, I can see exactly what's changed from revision 1 in this example to revision 4, which is my current example. And I can see here that because of the interactions between various objects, many things have changed already. If I want to see or highlight in greater detail, I can use my model control here to turn off various objects before reverting back and having a look at what has changed from a one revision to another. So let's say again revision 1 to revision 4, and it will highlight for me the new objects, unfortunately in green. There we go. If I turn them on and off, you can see that they are cycling through red and green. In this instance, green is a representation of the actual bar diameter that I am using. So we saw over the previous 2 days how we can represent reinforcement differently, either based on bar mark or bar diameter. And I prefer the latter, bar diameter, because I can instantly see the difference between my diameters. So I can see that a question has come in. I don't understand it totally, but I do believe it's asking whether or not Bimplus can support DGN files, and the answer to that is yes, it can, as well as SketchUp, Rhino, and a few other files as well. We might have to go through an IFC translator, but essentially any system or solution that supports IFC can get into ALLPLAN Bimplus. So again, inside of the pile cap, I'm thinking that essentially I've duplicated a slide, so apologies for that. Yep. Coordination is another issue with projects. Again, we know from our surveys and from third-party surveys that 55% of poor coordination leads to errors and increased costs. Okay, so I mentioned that we share information based on ISO 19650, which is one way where we are able to coordinate. So the other way that we are able to coordinate as well is through our tasks and through our clash detections. And using, again, the pile cap as a simple example, we can see that we can clash many things against many things, or we can clash particular objects and items against other particular items. So if we have a look at a major clash, for instance, now that is going to be something like the duct going through the slab, going through the pile cap. So as we highlight the actual clash that has been found in this particular set, we can see where the centroid of that clash is. Now, it wouldn't be much use unless we can actually take that clash and do something with it. So we need to be able to assign the clash and get somebody to correct the problem, okay? So fairly obvious, do we really need a big pipe through our pile cap? It might be that the answer will come in yes, in which case we will have to design around the pipe. But knowing drainage engineers, there is always probably a different way for them to do things, and it might be that we have to take it out a different direction, or we might have to even rotate our pile cap to get around this. But using the clash detection engine, we are able to assign a task and create a task that allows us to get somebody to do that work. If we wanted to look at items in particular, let's say reinforcement, then we might want to isolate our reinforcement first before we go on to our clash detection of reinforcement. Our clash detection engine allows us to assign tolerances, so it doesn't have to be a hard clash. It can be what we would call a soft clash. And again, what we're showing here is a soft clash of 2 mil, so reinforcement that is within 2 millimeters of each other around our pile cap cage. Now, I know as well as you do that a reinforcement clash isn't necessarily a clash. It can be resolved very readily on site just by moving a bar a fraction of a millimeter. But some of the biggest cost and delays are attributed to poor coordination of reinforcement. And we've seen over the past 2 days just how important modeling reinforcement in 3D can be to get over this this problem with clashes, okay? And what I'm doing here is essentially doing a proof that my 3D reinforcement detailer has done an exceptional job, and all I'm doing here is just rubber stamping the already superb job that they've done in the office. Okay, and again, what our tasks do and show is exactly the models and the isolation of objects, and it points to where that particular clash is. Now, you might think, looking at this, that I've only picked up one bar, but because of the way that bar ranges are modeled, they are considered to be one unique object inside of Bimplus, which means that we can use our engine much more efficiently. So that is us seeing 2 typical clashes that are already embedded in Bimplus. How do we clash a general objects against something else in particular? Okay, well, we can set up our own clash checks, and these clash checks or clash sets are available to those people in the group of the person that creates the check. So not everybody can see and use these clash sets. It could be that I have a coordination group rather than a civil and structural group at the beginning. And I have to be careful that I don't leave my work halfway through because it's unfinished yet. The other way of looking at this is that we can essentially license our individual components within Bimplus so that only specific people within the team or within the project group can actually use them as well. So they essentially become, if the feature we don't want available to someone, we can remove them from the licensing list, and essentially it is grayed out. So again, if I'm looking at the ducts associated with reinforcement, I can see that I have got 3 clashes. To look at that, I need to visualize that slightly better because I cannot see what is going on. So if I isolate or do some clever stuff with my objects, I can see that. Here we have the first clash, which is the duct going through the side rebar. And again, what I need to do essentially see that clash with the ducts and the rebar, and then I can create a task through my task manager, which allows me to do that. And again, I can assign that for someone to correct. So I'm using information here to essentially check, coordinate, and collaborate various models with how I want things to work. I'm making sure that my digital model is consistent and also can be built. Okay. Now, clash detection coordination, that is one aspect that shows me or allows me to have confidence in how things are going to be built, okay, that things can be built properly. So one of the other things that allows me to check that is if I was to review the build schedule in conjunction with my model, okay? So this falls into collaboration because I want to really collaborate with various solutions or various disciplines that might have different solutions. So we need a way of being able to collaborate effectively. Within Bimplus, we have what we would call add-ins that we can embed into several Microsoft Office applications for a start. But as I mentioned previously, our approach with IFC allows us to use essentially any format, because IFC is the universal open format for AEC projects. And what we want to be able to do is, rather than have information loss at key design phases, we want to be able to smooth out that sort of those hills and valleys or peaks and troughs, so that we have a continuous information flow over time and that we build up on information rather than lose information. So the example that I'm going to show now is using Bimplus within within Microsoft Project. So I have a Microsoft Project schedule which I'm using to drive a construction process in my model. This can be as complex or as simple as you want, okay? So going back to my pile cap model, my first revision of the pile cap, I've only got my piles, my concrete, and a few bits of reinforcement, as you can see here, just the bottom layer of reinforcement, essentially. So what I want to be able to do is use my Microsoft project schedule in ALLPLAN Bimplus. Now, I've previously exported this pile cap schedule to ALLPLAN Bimplus. And what I want to be able to do is start to link my schedule items to those items in Bimplus. Now, I can do this in a few ways. The obvious way is just to select the objects in Bimplus and add them to that particular entry into the schedule. Again, very easy to do when you can see or know roughly where your objects are. It would have helped me enormously if I'd have differentiated here between my blinding color and my pile cap concrete. But what if I can't see something? So I have another option here. I can either freeze off or go to something that I can't see, or I can go looking for an attribute within a list or the attributes of a selected object. I should have been wearing my glasses for this, definitely. So if I was to go for bar mark 1, I can find that in my attribute list and add it to my program. Again, I can go looking for attributes, or I could in fact select that particular item because it is, I know it's bar mark 2. And I can add that to my program schedule. Now, I haven't got any more bar marks. So what do I need to do? Well, there's two things. One, I can review what I've done already, or I can wait for my detailer to catch up with my scheduler. My project scheduler. But we can see already the project schedule taking place through this schedule simulation that we have built into Bimplus. The next part of the process is to update my building model. Okay, so question here is, what would happen if I now bring in a completely new revision of my pile cap? So here is a new revision of my pile cap with my finished reinforcement and my my kicker for my reinforced column in position. Well, you would hope that this new revision would not affect what I've already done with the schedule, and that's true. Because of the database that we have behind it, we are able to see and know what is new, what's been deleted, and what's been moved. Okay, now we do this, we track this through the database, through the unique grids that are being developed by the IFC file structure. And again, going to and having a look at this through schedule simulation, I'm now looking at revision 2 of my pile cap with the rest of the features that I actually need in the schedule. Same pile cap program, previously allocated objects. Now I just need to build out the objects that I have in stock here. And again, I can do this various ways. I can select through bar marks, or I can do this visually. It's completely independent of how it's completely up to you how you want it to work. Okay. Thing with a bar schedule is that the bars are supposed to be scheduled in the order in which they are supposed to be placed on site. That is the whole concept of a bar schedule. And that means that if you discover issues with the order in which you place your reinforcement, it's much better to have that here and now before you get to site, so that you don't have to take reinforcement out, or worse still, cut reinforcement to get other things to fit. So it might be that I don't have reinforcement starters, but I might have holding down bolts. Now, this for me was always a big problem on site, which is the order in which you place the other objects, the other cast-in objects, because you've got to get them in the right order. And it might be that you're placing bars in a particular order up to a certain point, then you're putting in your cast-in insert, and then you are adding in the rest of your bars. Okay. We don't know this until we investigate the schedule of works first, because this is what highlights the problems. And we can also see in this particular view that the bars in green are going absolutely through the middle of the bars in red underneath. So it is more than a 2 mil tolerance clash on those particular bars, but the person on site could in all honesty, sort that out. So now we see the schedule is being built up line by line, and for sure I can see already that we can improve this this functionality by looking at different ways of creating automatically or semi-automatically entries in a program schedule with objects and what their attributes within the model itself. If I get something wrong, it's very easy to come back in and delete and shift or add and so on and so forth. Okay, but now let's have a look at our program schedule in total, and you can see here now that I've got piles, blinding, reinforcement, concrete base, concrete kicker. So it looks okay. I'm happy with the order in which that is being done within the schedule itself, and I can move on to the next part of the of my design check. Very small example, but it shows you the power of linking a program schedule to the objects within the project database. It is not just about the information within the models itself. Okay, information, as I've always said, is power. If you can control the information, you have even more power over the model as well. And I know for a fact that being able to manipulate information within the model isn't necessarily the best way to manipulate the information, full stop. So as I mentioned we also have an add-in for Microsoft Excel, which allows us to look at objects within or models within projects. And again, I'm going to revert back to my pile cap here by way of example. And I can have a look at the different models that I have inside of my my model here. And I can look at a building model if I want to get more information, or if I just have a look at my concrete construction example here to visualize what my my reinforcement. Now, I can use this with some very simple Excel formulas to create a cost for my reinforcement based on my reinforcement in the model. So I could actually get not my modeler to do my takeoff, but my quantity surveyor using the power of Excel and Bimplus together. The application that sits inside of Excel is linked to Bimplus. So as you can see here, I fired up the viewer and we're able to show the objects by selecting the grid, the ID in Excel, and have them show in Bimplus. But there's more to the link from Excel to Bimplus than just the visual aspects. Obviously here, what I'm looking at is I can see there's been some slight rounding errors to the 1/10,000th of a millimeter, which I think I can actually forgive myself for being that inaccurate, to be fair. But it might throw visually some problems with regards to what I see. Purely via visual inspection of the information that's coming out of the model. Okay. Again, here, what I can do is a different sort of takeoff. I can have a look at the columns, not the columns. Sorry, for instance, the piles. Okay, so not very pretty, but we just need to make sure that the piles are visible first of all, so that we can actually cycle through them. So if I have an issue on site, for instance, I could get a report back of the grid of the pile or a picture of the pile, and I can very quickly visualize where that particular pile is. I could have a look at possibly where that pile is supposed to be, and because this has come back from site, say for instance the construction site, because Bimplus is always on 24/7. It's always available. It can be shared across multiple devices at the same time, so that the models or the project database can be updated in real time from anywhere, any place, as I've stated already. I can actually understand what my issues are very, very quickly through this communication medium. And because we're communicating through Bimplus, we have a complete audit trail of who is doing what when as well. Here we see that I have a volume attributable to my duct, which I may or may not want to take off, but I can always do that if I want to as well. So I've already mentioned that I can see my objects already in my Bimplus in my Bimplus model, but I can also control some of the attributes that I have in my Bimplus model through Excel, because this is a bi-directional link from Excel back to Bimplus. So if I, as a designer, make the decision to increase my nominal diameters from 16 mil to 20 mil, I can do that very quickly in Bimplus, and I can have the Bimplus, in Excel, and I can have Bimplus update to show those changes. If I fire up BIM Explorer now directly from Excel and select some of those reinforcements, you will see that attribute change has taken place. Now, I'm also going to put my hands up here and say that changing the reinforcement nominal diameter of a bent bar is probably something that you wouldn't do. Okay, you might change the diameter of a straight bar or a bar that was being used for dowels, say for instance. So if I select something that I know is a 16mm bar, and I know that that is not a 16mm bar because it's in the top layer. So if I select something that I knew was a 16mm bar, you can see now that that nominal diameter has been changed in Bimplus directly from Microsoft Excel. So sometimes it's easier and more efficient to manage the information from outside of a model than it is inside the model. And we have that facility inside of Bimplus. Now I know Bimplus does not provide all of the functionality that everybody wants, but we do provide an awful lot of functionality. Where we don't have that functionality, because of our open and robust API, we can do much more with Bimplus. And we can do that through a REST API that allows our developers and external developers to do much more. Now, sometimes they don't need an API. They can just use some of the facilities inside of Bimplus itself. I've got some examples here that I'll just show you with how we can link to external databases for products, how we can manage even our structural analysis models using a new application that was released just yesterday called SIA Autoconverter, how we can connect to point clouds using simple embedded hyperlinks that connect to an application like Faro Scene to visualize point clouds. And what is really quite exciting is the ability to use the same data in Bimplus and put your Oculus Rift glasses on and embed yourself inside of a bridge foundation, a bridge abutment, or to walk yourself along the ductwork of the tendons in some really complicated bridges. I'd also like to mention, although I don't actually have anything to show you, that our facilities management sister company, Spacewell, also use Bimplus inside of their application as the engine to visualize where they are inside of the actual building. And that allows you to not only walk around in some respects, but it also allows you to create maintenance schedules, connect with the Internet of Things, to embed controls and sensors and have that feedback, but using Bimplus as the graphical engine to do that. So some of these examples are very quick, which is why I'm going to show them to you. Others are maybe about 2 minutes in length. So linking to a database of products is very, very easy. Different language here because this was my Italian colleague that did this for me the other day. Linking to a window, and it could be linking also to, let's say, for instance, a bridge bearing that we might have data on. But what we're linking to is the complete specification of the item directly from within Bimplus. And that's a live database. So we embed the producer of the object of our chosen design directly within the Bimplus database. So we do not duplicate data. We build on the data. So next, we might have an underground storage tank, for instance. that we need to do some structural analysis. We've already completed the model. Admittedly, it might not have great big holes like this, but the model will have attenuation walls and baffles, etc. So we want to do an analysis with that. Unfortunately, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. So let's use the same geometrical model data and let's convert that into analysis objects so that we can do an analysis and reinforced concrete design that we can send back to our geometrical model for update. Okay. I have a question which appears to come through, which is looking, I think it's asked, I can see ETABS, STAD Pro and SAP 2000 in the question. So we have obviously an open BIM ethos that extends into structural engineering, and we are working on links through a format called structural analysis format, SAF, that will allow us to connect this open view of the structure to those applications, which means that we will have support for many analysis solutions purely through a simple format, which is based on Microsoft Excel, which is the tool of choice for any engineer. I have, through this tool, a completely recognized and aligned model so that all of my nodes join up, everything supports, and I know that it will be able to be analyzed very, very quickly. Faro have a brilliant viewer called Faro Scene, and it is based online. It allows them to create hyperlinks of their viewpoints. So in Bimplus, all we need to be able to do is to embed the same hyperlink to the same viewpoint in Bimplus. And then we are able to visualize exactly what that is supposed to look like, or what that looks like now on site from within Bimplus. So we have an open and connected BIM universe that is using Bimplus as the driver, as the facilitator for that connectivity. Don't reinvent the wheel if there is something else out there. Now, I can't show you, or I can't give you all virtual reality glasses, unfortunately. But what I am able to show you very quickly is how we are able to reuse our data that is embedded in BIM Explorer, and how we can embed that into a virtual reality functionality, which is called AX3000 virtual reality. This allows us to utilize the same data to rebuild it locally, because we do not want this streaming through the cloud, but it takes a snapshot of the data and allows us to visualize exactly the same data, but in a 3D immersive environment. I have actually used this with a customer for exactly what I said earlier about immersing myself inside of a reinforcement cage. Not something usually that you would like to do, but perfectly feasible, perfectly usable, over and above what we are, what we see here with regards to being able to walk around a project architecturally. So I'd like to start closing off now just by showing you some case studies, just so as you don't have to take my word for it, okay? So many people use Bimplus. They use it for different purposes, not just coordination and collaboration. Sometimes it's easy to show people what you mean rather than describe it. I mean, a picture is 1,000 words. We've all heard that, and so the Andreas and Christian are using Bimplus to assign tasks, visualize what the project looks like through the sectioning tool that I showed, make comments, look at the structure of the project to make sure that even the project data is going to be able to be reused properly for facilities management, for managing the construction project at the end. And again, we have here with this particular company that are using the 3D model to iron out, to find, discuss and solve the technical challenges, again through coordination and collaboration. So one of our big customers in infrastructure works, BAM, use Bimplus in their embedded BIM processes to check their 3D reinforcement models. So this allows them to be ultra productive on site to make sure that the reinforcement is placed correctly the very first time, not second or third. Our customer, Zublin, are using Bimplus on Stuttgart 21, which is a big railway station construction project in Germany. And they are using this to convey the placement of reinforcement rather than using drawings. So if you can imagine how many 2D drawings might be used or created to convey this rather complicated conical or funnel support. I can well imagine hundreds of drawings per structure, but they've developed digital work processes that enable them to convey this to the people on site so that they can actually build directly from a digital model rather than from drawings. And we are seeing more and more of this concept of digital construction without drawings coming into place, just using basic Bimplus and being able to take off dimensions and look at views, etc., directly from this cloud-based modeling solution. So that, I think, is quite close to the hour and a half that I was asked to keep this introduction to ALLPLAN Bimplus to. I'd like to thank you for your attention and see if we have got any questions that allow us, that need answering. Siswanto, is there anything out there that you need help with? Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can, Ralph. Siswanto, can you translate maybe the questions that came in?
So I have one here at the that has literally just come in that I can actually read, which is good. So how does Bimplus record any mistakes from a finished project? So if we have an as-built model from a finished project, then that would essentially be the last revision in the model database. And if we were to compare that model with the model of the final revision of the design model, then we certainly would be able to see the differences between the two revisions. Bearing in mind also that that final revision of the as-built model is what you will take forward to be your facilities management model. So yes, we are able to do that. We can also combine DTM data that we need to use for ALLPLAN Bridge. So the example that I showed towards the beginning of my presentation had that terrain model in there, and that can come in various points as well. I have showed already that we can use Bimplus in conjunction with Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Project that we can embed and use for the physical building process. So Bimplus is cloud-based. It's based on our own servers, but it can be ported to any server, even from a Amazon Web Services, an AWS, or a Microsoft server, or it can be behind firewalls, etc. But all of that is based on extended consultancy to make sure we understand exactly what the customer wants to enable us to do that. I can see some more as well. Yep. So are there any minimum requirements? So minimum requirements is that you need to be able to run a browser. If you can run a browser with a decent connection from your phone or from your tablet, perfectly acceptable, no problem at all. Many people can access the information at the same time, but they can't all change it at the same time. We can have multiple alignments embedded into the project because an alignment is essentially a model. If I change the alignment, it becomes a revision to the model. Therefore, as shown earlier, it's a simple matter of pointing the bridge design to a different alignment, a different revision of the alignment, and the bridge will update to suit. And again, we can store those bridge models, those revisions, in the project. So what is the big constraint of the application in Bimplus? An interesting question, and I can't think of any constraints of Bimplus except those of your imagination. Because of how Bimplus is organized with its data structure, its database, and the API behind it, we are seeing very ingenious solutions that are being proposed and built out on top of Bimplus. So, Siswanto.
Yes, Ralph, there is a question, what is the difference between freemium and the paid one?
Okay, so we've just gone through an update with editions with Bimplus. So we now have 4 editions. We have a Bimplus Basic, which was essentially the old free edition, which has limits on users and storage, and also limits on the functionality. We then build out on that with editions called Standard, Professional, and Enterprise, and they all build up with the amount of people that we can allocate to a team, their storage, and their functionality, all the way through to Professional, which allows us to run many embedded applications as standard, and also allows us to do the analysis integration, all the way up to Enterprise, where we remove limits, but they're aimed at organizations of 100, 200 people or more in the team, which invariably leads us on to more consultancy work with regards to Bimplus, and also negotiations with regards to where Bimplus is actually installed, i.e. is it kept on our servers, or is it lifted and shifted to the customer's servers? So in a nutshell, it's number of users, amount of storage, and functionality.
Okay, Ralph, there is another question for the student version. Is it coming with all of the add-ons as in a professional, or how?
So the student or education versions, we start off with a basic, and then we have the ability to license freely individual applications for education use. So it allows people to get to grips with Bimplus in an educational environment. I can see a question here about Bimplus and updates. So because Bimplus is a cloud-based solution, we have regular updates and fixes. So usually these are at least every 3 months, and you can expect to see changes very regularly. But we also tell the users that we are updating, and these are the updates, and this is what it means. Very rare do we see any problems with that, because we always thoroughly test before we deploy. So nothing gets deployed unless it's tested to the nth degree.
Ralph, I have another question.
Yep.
Can in Bimplus we superimpose the old revision and the new revision?
Can Bimplus, what was that, sorry? Superimpose. So it will show you, yes, in a way it will, because it will highlight the changes between the old revision and the new revision. It will show you what is moved, what is changed, what's new, what's deleted, and also not only the objects, but it will also tell you what objects have had attribute changes. So if an attribute has been changed from one concrete grade to another concrete grade, it will highlight that as an attribute change. So it's not a physical change per se, it's an attributed change, and it will highlight the two objects in the two different revisions.
Thanks. Another question. How Bimplus is managed its storage? If you upload the project already, let's say 200 megabytes, and then later on you upload another project, then what happens if you delete the first project? Will the storage will increase or what?
So if you, there are two views on the dashboard. One is your project storage database, and one is your overall storage database. So with the different editions, you get different storage available, different storage spaces. And if you choose to do a project and it's 200 megabytes in total, and then you delete it, then you have 0 in your store, but you haven't got a project anymore. It's all somewhere else. It's gone. It's deleted. Okay, so we maintain that project store, and you can build on it and add another 200 megabytes so that it becomes 2 separate projects of 200 megabytes, making a total store of 400 megabytes. So the team storage is what we are looking at, as well as the project storage, so that you can it allows you to visualize just how much information is going into your individual projects. The editions, so basic allows a total of 2 gigabytes and 3 users, whereas standard starts at 5 users in a team and gives you 2 gigabytes per user. And then it steps up to 5 gigabytes per user on professional, and then unlimited storage, for want of a better phrase, with enterprise. So the more people in your team, the more storage you get, and the less likely you are to need to start to delete projects from Bimplus. Okay.
Ralph?
Yeah.
There is another question. Can we upload the terrain from the photogrammetry or point cloud directly into Bimplus, or we do need to put it to another software and then import it as a IFC?
Okay, so it depends on the format for the terrain, because we are able to take some point data, but I know that point cloud data is gigabytes, and there are many facilities to take that and create your terrain from that in a much more friendlier environment, be that land XML or IFC. Okay, so the thing about terrain is that's the starting point for the project. Your design that goes on top will adapt that terrain with cut and fill. So we still need to have that base terrain in there that we can then revisualize with the cut and fill terrain that we actually would work on from a design perspective. But there are many ways to do that without having to revert to gigabytes worth of point cloud information. And as we saw with the Faro Scene application, where they have managed to embed the point cloud information into a cloud-based viewer, there are ways that we can visualize and confirm or look to see what that actual point cloud data looks like itself. but consideration needs to be with the actual workflow, with what you want to do with the point cloud. And having a point cloud just for the sake of having a point cloud doesn't really make sense. You need to be able to do something with it and work with it, which means that you have to have some form of design model based on it. So you need to be able to work with it effectively. Some good questions coming up. Anything else taking your fancy there, Siswanto?
Not really, because actually they just need to know when you get a big one, you have an add-on, right? Like Excel, Microsoft Project. You also have the add-on for Revit, right?
Yep. So we have a built-in connection to ALLPLAN Bimplus straight out of ALLPLAN. And that also allows us to update attribute changes from Bimplus back into ALLPLAN. So that whole concept of a workflow where we're using non-graphical information inside of Excel back into Bimplus will actually go back through into the authoring, the geometrical authoring modeling software, in this case ALLPLAN. We also have a link, an add-in for Revit, which allows us to publish the Revit model, again, into Bimplus using an IFC structure. But any solution that creates an IFC file, we can upload and pull into ALLPLAN Bimplus to allow coordination and collaboration to take place. And again, those applications they don't stand still. They are constantly being developed and improved on. As the more we use, the more our customers use the applications, the more feedback we get, and the more we listen to our customers and we react to our customers' wishes.
Okay, Rab. I think it's all. It's about all. So I'm trying to close it a little bit, and then I will send it to PUPR to close it.
Okay.
From Q&A, I think we are finished more or less, and then I will give it back to the PUPR.
Yes. Yep. Okay.
Parisa?
Thank you, Siswanto. Thank you for your help.
Thank you. Pak Reza masih ada di situ? Oke, sebelum mungkin sambil menunggu Pak Reza untuk menampilkan nanti link untuk Q&A serta absensi.
Halo, Pak.
Saya akan mencoba sedikit, saya minta waktu 5 menit bentar Pak ya. Saya jelasin sedikit Pak ya.
Ya, silakan Pak.
Jadi teman-teman tadi masih banyak pertanyaan mengenai perbedaan positioning daripada Bimplus itu seperti apa. Jadi Bimplus ini adalah dari sisi Named Sex Group adalah CGI-nya, jadi Common Data Environment-nya. Jadi gunanya untuk kolaborasi menggunakan AFC maupun menggunakan format-format yang lain yang umum. Contohnya LAN XML, terus kalau yang menggunakan Revit itu ada add-on untuk mendapatkan Revit langsung ke dalam Bimplus. Kita juga ada Excel, Microsoft Project tadi yang sudah sempat ditunjukkan. Mungkin Microsoft Project belum sempat ditunjukkan, namun kita mempunyai link dengan Microsoft Project, sehingga modeling dibikin di software apapun, diupload melalui IFC ke Bimplus, bisa ditambahkan schedule di dalam Microsoft Project. Kita juga ada add-on untuk Point Cloud, tadi dijelaskan Faro, Facility Management, VR, Virtual Reality, Revision Manager. Jadi Revision Manager tadi juga ada sempat pertanyaan, kalau ada revisi 1, ada revisi 2, ada revisi 3, secara otomatis pada saat kita upload ke dalam Bimplus akan ada pertanyaan apakah kita akan override model yang lalu atau kita akan membuat revisi baru. Setelah kita membuat revisi baru, kita mempunyai opsi untuk melihat perubahannya apa. Apa yang kita delete, apa yang kita tambahkan, apa yang kita geser, perubahan secara atribut bisa dilakukan di Bimplus. Juga pada Bimplus, clash detection yang ada jauh lebih bagus daripada standar clash detection yang ada di dalam ALLPLAN engineering. Mungkin nanti secara garis besar begitu, mungkin waktu akan saya serahkan kembali ke Pak Reza supaya bisa dilanjutkan dengan kuesioner ya Pak Reza ya. Waktu dan tempat Pak, kami serahkan.